Adam Schefter reports now that the Pittsburgh Steelers have entered the conversation on Justin Fields. Not anything that we haven't heard before. We're going to talk a little bit about that, even though there should be some serious doubts around if the Bears do actually plan on trading Justin Fields. But we'll talk about that on the episode. We're also going to talk about an interesting running back prospect that's popped up in the draft. The Chicago Bears can get later in the draft that could have a big impact for the team, especially in the Shane Waldron offense. And the Chicago Bears deadline to either extend or franchise tag Jaylen Johnson is coming. We're going to talk about all that plus a little bit of the mailbag right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bears Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bears news and content.
What's going on, Bears fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bears Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bears related. I'm the host, Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Chi Bears Central on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that being said, let's go ahead and get into this content for today. So the Chicago Bears initially planned on having a top 30 visit today with Caleb Williams, but it seems that that's now been pushed to after his pro day because of how both sides have kind of felt after the draft combine. So we'll see what that means for the Bears in the long-term plans or anything like that. Many people have now taken that to mean that the Bears are extending their time to even, make that decision when it comes to what they're going to do there. It seems like right now, Ryan Poles, even per some rumors, again, take those always with a grain of salt, is willing to wait out some of the vets on the QB market and free agency, go other places before trading Justin Fields. Now, I have my own doubts around that, right? I think, with all the reporting and rumors, and we kind of talked about on yesterday's live stream with all the guys, the things that are kind of popping back up and down all the time, it just goes back and forth. You're going to see a lot of that when it comes down to it. But, Adam Breer with Sports Illustrated have said that right now the Bears are in their vetting process for Caleb Williams, and that part of that they've had multiple meetings in Indianapolis last week. That they met with Caleb Williams both on Wednesday of last week, and he met with the team's top offensive coaches as well, and he met with team president. And still that that there's still some doubts around it. It seems like the Bears also met with Caleb Williams' camp as it was reported on Friday night. So take that for what you will, but it seems like the Bears are still making that decision. Now, many people understandably have taken that to say if they're still going over the decision this hard, maybe the Bears aren't leaning that way. Maybe the Bears are keeping Justin Fields. A lot of you guys are very, very verbal in there, and I will say this. I got to commend almost everybody in the comment section for Chicago Bears Central. If you're on the podcast side and you're looking for somewhere to be able to talk about this, I got to give you guys your love. You guys have been very respectful of each other when it comes down to the Caleb Williams and Justin Fields debates and topics and things that have gone in there. Yeah, there's been a little tension in there for sure amongst some people, but generally you guys have been very respectful with each other. And I, for one, is seeing all the discourse and back and forth on Twitter and other social media. I got to give you guys your credit. You guys have been verbalizing your points really well amongst each other, even when me and some of the other hosts come in there. Very good. But, when it comes down to it, it seems like right now that, the Bears are looking at Albert Breer reported it as they're checking their final boxes when it comes down to their decision on what to do regarding either trading or keeping Justin Fields. And so, it seems like right now, per Breer, the exact quote is this: the general manager, Ryan Poles, has put the Bears in a position to trade Justin Fields in the coming days, but did not rule out the team waiting until there is clarity on the free agent cases of Kirk Cousins and Baker Mayfield. Any fear of disagreement between Bears and Williams camp likely can be put to rest now. The Bears are moving in a direction where Williams will be the team's next starting quarterback. Now, that comes from Adam Breer. You can take that for what you will. You guys know Breer is a very respected. He doesn't get everything right, but you can take that again. I am just reporting on the news. You guys know my feelings and thought processes when it comes down to the Chicago Bears quarterback situation, but this is the thing. We say we're the number one spot for everything Chicago Bears related. That means I'm going to report on everything. Even if I disagree with something, if it comes from a reliable source, fairly reliable, I'm going to report on it, and we could talk about it amongst ourselves. But that's where Adam Breer feels that the Chicago Bears right now are leaning, that that Caleb Williams will be the Chicago Bears' next starting quarterback. There are more than enough reasons to have doubt. Now, per Adam Schefter as well, to kind of add to this, he did say in right now that the Pittsburgh Steelers have kind of moved into that pole position to trade for Fields. Now, until the trades happen, I would not be surprised if we hear every single day different team being in that pole position. Schefter saying this: there's been a lot of speculation about Atlanta. I think Atlanta will be something of a surprise right now to trade for Justin Fields. There's been some conversation about the Pittsburgh Steelers. Maybe something can be figured out there. The Las Vegas Raiders might have some interest, but there's not a huge number of teams lined up to trade for Justin Fields as the Bears look to find a home for him before free agency begins in about 10 days. So, again, that's the reports from Schefter, Adam Breer. That's what they're getting from either their sources or whatever it is. Take that with a grain of salt, and we'll see where it shakes out. I think ultimately most Bears fans are where kind of we are here on this show at this point. Let's just make a decision, and then we'll make the determination, or we'll deal with our feelings based off that, and then we can kind of start focusing now on what's the next step for the team. And that's kind of what the next point is that regardless of where the team is, regardless, and again, when I say this, I know some more knee-jerk reaction people are going to take it in a different place, but the Bears still need to focus on building this team to be a playoff team next year. And that does not mean putting all that pressure on Caleb Williams. What the Chicago Bears are doing, rightfully so, is they're building a deep team. And I think that defense especially could be a defense that's good enough to push the Chicago Bears to being a playoff team almost by the nature of that alone, as long as the offense is formidable, which with Shane Waldron coming in is something to be pointed at with that. So we'll see what happens, man. At the end of the day, I do think that clarity, I have the feeling from what I've heard, some of the sources that I have, very minuscule sources. I'm not saying that. I just know a couple of people that know a couple of people that it seems like a decision by the end of this week could very well be made for the Chicago Bears and maybe even made before then. But you guys know, stay subscribed to us because we'll be dropping a video immediately after whatever decision is made, and that's made public. That video will be coming out from Chicago Bears Central. I can guarantee you on that one. So with that said, let's move on to the next thing. I want to talk something about the draft. We talked a lot, and we've covered it, and tomorrow I'll start back on kind of the positional prospects, right? But an interesting prospect has come up for the Chicago Bears that the Bears have actually requested an interview for, and that is New Hampshire running back Dylan Laube. Dylan Laube. I'm going to pronounce the name right. Dylan Laube, and the Bears have an interview with him. Keep in mind, this is a guy who was in the Senior Bowl. We've talked a lot about how the Bears do recruit from the Senior Bowl. And for those that aren't familiar, he played in New Hampshire. Again, Dylan Laube, when you look at his, he is the prototypical Shane Waldron type player. When you look at last year for New Hampshire, he had 715 yards rushing, but 699 yards receiving. This guy is looked at as not only can he be used in special teams, he can also be used as a third down back. He's a good receiver. He's almost a receiver, a wide receiver coming out that backfield, not just a receiving running back. When you look at over the course of his collegiate career, over 5 years in college, right? Every one of those years had multiple touchdowns, both rushing and receiving the ball. In 2022, probably his best season, he had 1,200 yards rushing, 15 touchdowns. He also had 464 yards receiving with 2 touchdowns there. I already went over the numbers last year. This is a guy who, as a running back, a gadget back, so to say, yeah, he's a little undersized, 5'10", 207 pounds, but this is a guy that I can absolutely see Shane Waldron loving. We know that we've had some doubt in the special teams market for sure. He can be a kick returner, a punt returner as well. This is a guy who just plays football. He has that skill set that just can be used all over the NFL. Dynamic runner, like I said, in both the kick and the return. He's returned touchdowns in both of those. He had 295 yards against Central Michigan last year. This guy is a guy who just plays football. And as we talk about kind of getting more to a positionless football type game, Dylan Laube has the potential to be that. And I think when you look at having kind of what we expected Travis Homer to be last year, injuries took that away. Cost-effective acquisition for the Bears, adding him to Khalil Herbert, who showed a little bit more versatility in that passing game than I think what we were expecting. He just needs to stay healthy. We got the all-around back in Jaylon Johnson as well, who many people expect to kind of be able to excel and step into that starting role maybe soon for the Chicago Bears. We'll see what happens. But getting Dylan Laube for the Chicago Bears could solve up a lot of what the Bears have. Kick returner, punt returner, third down back, receiving out the backfield with Shane Waldron loves. A guy who also can come in and be solid as well in the rushing game. I could see the Bears absolutely getting him on top of his performance in the Senior Bowl, how the Bears do recruit in the Senior Bowl. And this is a guy who, despite that performance, isn't being talked a lot about in the draft combine. And that may be the perfect scenario for the Chicago Bears to slide in there and get a guy who can do a lot. Now, you don't want to put a whole lot of expectations on a guy, right away, like especially as a rookie. But I tell you what, you do your research. Go and look up Dylan Laube. Go and look up his stats and all those things like that and some of his highlights. Again, look at tape. Don't look at highlights if you can avoid it. But this is a guy that I absolutely can see fitting in Shane Waldron's offense and the Chicago Bears considering how we've recruited from that Senior Bowl in prior years. But let me know what you guys think on that down below, man. I really like this guy. I think this is a guy that I would not be surprised if the Bears pick. Again, not a threat to take over the starting running back position or anything, but a guy that when you look at the totality of the game of football and all the different areas that he can contribute to, he definitely can help an NFL team. And if that ends up being the Chicago Bears, I ain't going to be too mad at it. But with that said, we got to talk about a little bit about Jaylen Johnson, man. So we know Tuesday, 3 p.m. is the deadline day that the Bears have to decide on what's going to happen with Jaylen Johnson, if they can reach a contract extension or if they're going to franchise tag him. Now, with that said, there still allows, even if they were to franchise tag him, they still have a little bit of wiggle room where they can come to a long-term deal even after the franchise tag is given, but do expect that franchise tag is probably going to come down with Jaylen unless we get a deal announced here shortly. And so, we'll see. And listen, Ryan Poles has already signaled that, right? When he says things like, no, Jaylen will be back, I think that did point towards, no, he's going to be back because if we can't reach a contract extension, we're going to franchise tag him, and then we're going to still try to work out that long-term deal. So I'm not surprised at it. I do think it would be the right move for the Chicago Bears to do that. You don't want to let a homegrown talent at that, just get away. If you can avoid it, you have that under your control, and then get back to the drawing board and see what you can have. His franchise tag would be a little over $18 million. I think I've seen it fluctuate between like 18.4, 18.7. So it's going to be a little over $18 million. And we've heard now that he wants a contract or expecting a contract of upwards of $20 million. So if you're already going to franchise tag him for that much, we'll see what happens when it comes down to it. So at the end of the day, we'll see, man. Listen, I think you got to bring Jaylen Johnson back. I know not everyone agrees with that. It's not a universal decision. I do think most people do think that that's going to happen. But a deal for Jaylen Johnson, I think at $20 million, which will put him in the top 5 cornerbacks paid in the league. I don't think that's bad. Right now, they have him projected at $22 million per PFF. We'll see what happens with that. If the Bears can get him with that, we'll see. The Bears right now have handed out contracts to Montez Sweat, Tremaine Edmonds, TJ Edwards over the last calendar year of $189 million in total. So the Bears aren't afraid to spend, even with the question still around this team and this team still, quote unquote, being in a development area, right? And so I think that's going to point towards getting that done. And we know that Ryan Poles has said that he wants to avoid the franchise tag when it comes down to it. But 4 years, $70 million may be the number that's kind of projected right now for him. And we'll see what happens with that, man. He to me is one of the players you got to bring back, in my opinion. And I would love to see him come back. And we'll see what happens with that. Jaylen Johnson, I think, is going to be back, though. So you guys can let me know what you guys think on all that down below. Now, you guys have been going off in the voicemail bag, so we do got a voicemail that we're going to play today. This one's from Ant.
Hey, what up, Haize? This is Anthony from Louisiana. Hey, look, man, I'm just not even about to talk about the whole Justin Taylor thing, but I will talk about the number 1 pick, and I hope we do trade it. And it's not for sake of the quarterback, man. Just build up this team I love most so we can be a team kind of like the Niners or the Eagles, where you can plug and play a quarterback and get where you need to go. For anybody who has issues with that, then I tell y'all, just watch actual football and learn it, because if you got a team that's competing in the NFC Championship or the Super Bowl year in and year out, I'll take that team any day of the week, any month of the year. I don't give a crap who's on the team. I will take that team. But I hope they trade the number 1 pick, because I want Ryan Poles to do exactly what he did last year with the Carolina Panthers. And I'm not just talking about him trading the pick and getting a bunch of picks and DJ Moore, which was dope. I'm talking about what he did after the draft. What he did after the draft and the free agency, to me, is how he leads the Carolina Panthers. Because, look, if you look at it, the Carolina Panthers offense from 2 years ago was P.J. Walker, Deontay Foreman, DJ Moore. Like, that was his offense. Like, what did he do in the free agent? Well, he got DJ Moore in the draft trade. He signed P.J. Walker as the backup. He signed Deontay Foreman as one of the running backs who, man, I hope he could have stayed with us because he was dope. But that was their entire offense. And he gave that rookie quarterback, Bryce Young, a team that they was piecing together because their entire offense decided to leave. Well, I ain't going to say their entire offense, but their best players on their offense decided to leave and sign with the Bears. Like, if we do that to another team, just imagine you get Justin these weapons and he blooms or blossoms. And, like, thrives like we think he will, and now you end up with the number 1 pick and the Bears end up in the playoffs. Like, do you know the storm that you would get from that? Probably don't have no great, quarterback coming up. I don't know because I'm not a big college guy, but can you imagine what they'll say or do when it comes to the Bears? Like, it'll probably scare teams from trading with the Bears at that point, but at the same time, Ryan Poles would be like a masterclass of drafting and building a team and tearing down the team at the same time. I just hope they do it because I feel like that'll be a great way to go about it. And if he do, I hope he do the same thing he did before and be able to take some pieces off of that team he traded from and tear it down to get a higher draft pick for next year's draft. I don't know. I like to hear what you feel about it.
Great voicemail there, and here's what I'll say, man. I get, don't get me wrong, trading the number 1 pick, getting the historic haul, which everyone is quoting now, but getting any haul back, that you continue adding depth to that team. Somebody even left in the comments, I don't remember your name, so I forgive you. Forgive me. Charge it to my mind, not my heart. I had mentioned, the Bears have 6 picks in this draft. Typically, Ryan Poles adds more. How do you think he's going to add more if he doesn't trade that number 1 overall pick? And that is a fair question, but make no mistake about it. If Poles, even at number 9, the guy that he sees falling, he's going to take that deal, especially I think because the Bears really do want to get into that second round and get a center there that can be their starter. That's kind of the feel that I get from the team. But I listen, the historic haul, as it's quoted for that, the thing with that is that the thing that we would have to know is how the Bears truly view Caleb Williams, right? Because a historic haul sounds great and it sounds amazing, and it is amazing. Let me be clear there. But if Ryan Poles, if Kevin Warren, look at this kid in Caleb Williams and says, this is the guy, that may be worth more, because at that point, if you do get that guy, it's not about necessarily draft. You still always want to draft well, right? But that's going to attract free agents. It may not happen in year 1. It may not happen in year 2. It may not happen into year 3. But if Caleb Williams comes to the Chicago Bears team and does prove it, then there are going to be free agents that are going to want to come here once the Bears prove that they have that guy and they have the framework with that defense and other things that they do, that they feel that they can have success here in Chicago. Now, to the credit of that, let's say you do, because I always like to talk about things from both sides. You hold on to Justin. You trade that number 1 overall pick. You get your depth. You get your future picks. Justin Fields, either if he does or does not work out, you are adding so much depth to that team. As you said, that then if that quarterback does not work for you in Justin Fields, you can get another one. You can plug and play. Maybe you go after a veteran then because you have the framework. So it still leaves a lot of flexibility, right? I think as Bears fans, as fans of the team in general, we focus in on what we would want to see the team do, and then we make everything support that. And that's natural. There's nothing wrong to do that. But what the special thing about what Ryan Poles is in the position to do right now is that he's in a position to be successful no matter what way he goes, potentially. You just got to see what way that's going to be. And I do think that answer, I hope that answer at least, is going to come down sooner rather than later for the Chicago Bears and for everything involved, right? And so, again, it's a lot of directions that this team can go right now. Every direction has its own parts of it that make sense, some more than others, right? But when it comes down to it, the thing that matters the most is how Ryan Poles, how Kevin Warren evaluate Caleb Williams. And we won't truly know that until they either trade the pick or draft the pick. And that by their actions, we will know specifically with that number 1 overall pick. I know some people are going to get to typing, we already know by his actions, he hired XYZ. But by the actions of what they do with that number 1 pick, that's going to tell truly how Ryan Poles evaluated this whole entire situation. And then at that point, as Bears fans, we're going to sink or swim with the decision that Ryan Poles made. But let me know what you guys think on all that down below. Make sure you guys are following the channel at Shy Bears Central. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, ChicagoBearsCentral@gmail.com. And then lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-242-9336. We are the number 1 spot for everything Chicago Bears related, thanks to you guys. And like I like to end every episode on, Chi-Town up, but bear down. Love you guys. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.